Greetings, NCOPE residents. It's Chris. I want to take a brief moment and show you how to check the volume of orthotic versus prosthetic encounters you have logged within NCOPE Tracker. And it's going to take a little bit of know-how within the Microsoft Excel system. Let me show you how to do it. When you log in, you're going to be greeted by your dashboard. But then you're going to go to Create or Edit Dataset. This usually takes a few moments to load because it's actually querying all of your data. We're then going to go to Open, View, /Edit at the bottom, and this allows us to see all of the records that we have. And in order to actually work through this process, there's a few different things you can do. First of all, without downloading anything, you could always opt to simply go to Filter and filter by Type and Orthotic. And now you'll be able to see of your 283 records, 107 are orthotic. And then in theory then, we should have a complementary number that are deemed prosthetic, assuming that the records are completely up to date, which they are in the case of this example. So that's a pretty quick and easy way to do it. On that note, we actually might want to export this information over to Microsoft Excel. We're going to go ahead and clear out all of our filters. I'm going to turn off the filter pane and hit clear. And it'll take a moment. You'll see our little circle spinning. But now we have the entire data set. I'm going to go ahead and download all 283 records, and it's usually pretty quick. We're going to open up our file. It's in a CSV or XLSX format. We can go ahead now and expand. And first we're going to remove that top row. So you can always just right click on that little number 1, select delete. And just to make things a little bit easier, let's go ahead and tweak our zoom. So now we can go ahead and sort our data by the various columns or values that are present. For example, let's go ahead now and select all of our respective data from all 283 rows and columns. I'm going to highlight and choose all of those cells and scroll all the way up. This might take a little bit of time if you're working with a big Excel file, but now I've highlighted all of those values and go to Data. And we can go ahead now and sort by date, type, or any value that we'd like. What I'd like to do is actually sort by our appointment date. And then I'm going to add a level, and I'm going to sort by type. And I'm going to sort Z to A, so prosthetic encounters show up before orthotic encounters, because they're a little bit more rare. And if it gives you a prompt like this, you can pick OK. There's nothing wrong with that. But now what it's done is gone through and actually done a major sort by date. So we'll see that actually looks pretty good there. And all of our dates are there, and the prosthetic interventions are above the orthotic interventions. So we can look at July 11th here as a nice example and see that we have prosthetic and orthotic devices. Prosthetic devices are listed at the top. So let's have a little bit of fun now. We already know by the number of rows that are available that we have 283 cases, because the row 1, well, that's our header row. If we want to actually figure out what are the total number of days that we actually saw patients, that's pretty easy to do. We're going to go over to Remove Duplicates, and we're going to unselect all except for the appointment date. And now we can see 219 duplicate values are found, 64 unique values remain. So we actually can go to the top and evaluate. Cool. We have 64 unique dates that our resident actually saw patients during our period of time. And that's expected, considering that we're looking at a date range from the second week of July until roughly the middle of October, in the case of this data set example that I'm looking at here. 64 unique days that we actually saw patients. What if we want to identify the number of days that we saw patients for prosthetic care versus orthotic care. That's pretty easy to do. First of all, we need to actually undo the step that we just did. Is simply hit Control and Z on your keyboard. If you do that, it'll automatically undo the step, or you can click this little back arrow here. So I'm going to undo the removal of duplicates, and you'll see now all 283 rows remain. So what we can do now instead is, first of all, I'm going to go to Control A to choose all of my data that's available here. And I got all 283 rows captured. You can also just drag the cursor if you'd like, but hitting Control A selects all values that are available. I'm then going to go to Data. And here's where we get to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to go ahead now and sort. And instead of just sorting by date, I'm going to only sort by my types. So now, all of my prosthetic cases, those are in the upper rows, and all my orthotic cases, well, those are in the lower rows. So what we can do here is, this is our very first row where there's an orthotic case. I'm going to scroll all the way over and all the way down to row 284. So theoretically, I've selected all the cases that have the word orthotic in them. And then go to Remove Duplicates. And you can select by data has headers if you're on the top, but I'm on the bottom. But I want to remember which one is the date field. So it's the second row, second column here. So it doesn't actually have headers, but I'm going to unselect all. And I'm going to remove any duplicates that are identified within my selection of just orthotic cases here. And hit OK. And now we can see that I can pick the very first day that I have orthotic cases defined. And just scroll right on down. And you can count the number of rows if you want, or it'll do it for you automatically. So when I get to the bottom here, count 46. So there are 46 days that we saw orthotic cases. How many days did we actually see prosthetic cases? Well, we're just going to repeat that process again. So our lowest prosthetic case is right here. We're looking at row 177. I'm just going to scroll across to get all my columns. And let's just repeat the process. Remove duplicates. And this time I have headers in place. I'm going to unselect all except for the appointment date. So it's going to remove any duplicate dates that we have for our prosthetic data set. Ready? And go. And now you can see there's a whole bunch of blanks because it's removed those rows, but we can go ahead now and scroll down from here to here. And you'll see 60. So there were 60 days that prosthetic patients were seen. While in contrast, for orthotic cases, there were 46 days that there were orthotic cases seen within the data set that we're looking at. So this is a pretty nice way to double check. Am I actually seeing orthotic and prosthetic cases, and is it mixed across a certain range of dates? And you could do this for as wide of a date range as you'd like. Because the beauty of it is, Excel can easily handle the number of rows for every orthotic or prosthetic case that occurs during a residency. And you might be wondering, what's the most number of cases any resident's ever logged? We've actually had residents exceed 3,000 case entries for a combined O&P residency. So that's the high number in case you're ever wondering what's the maximum volume seen. On that note, I hope you found this helpful to figure out how many days did I actually see orthotic cases versus prosthetic cases? And what was the count for the orthotic cases versus prosthetic cases? Well, I'm pleased to say, now you know how to do that. This is Chris, signing out.